Alrighty, hi y'all. Thank you for bearing with that. This is our first hybrid meeting. So I'd like to call the Southwood Neighborhood Association meeting to order this evening, September 21st, 2022. I'm Anna Pittala. I'm the current president of the Southwood Neighborhood Association. And I'd like to thank everyone for giving up a little bit of their time this evening to join us, both in person and virtually. Normally we would start our meeting with introductions, but it looks like we have a pretty healthy crowd today, so we're going to skip that so we can get right to the meat of it, which is we're having the election tonight. We're also going to be voting on our budget. And then we also have guests from Watershed Protection going to be sharing the survey results on the flood mitigation that some of us participated in. So I'm kind of excited about hearing about that. You too? Yeah. So for those of y'all joining us via Zoom, if you could please stay muted at all times so that we don't get feedback with the Bose speaker that's in the room. If you have any problem with that, I can just hit the mute for you. So, oops, what happened? I'm already having technical difficulties. It bounced on me. All right, so how many of y'all live in Southwood that are in the room? Okay, so we have quorum because we have 13 members in the room, in addition to the lovely folks that joined us via Zoom. So we have more than enough to be able to proceed. Hi, Kelly. Alrighty. So alrighty. So we're going to go ahead and start the portion of our meeting with the annual officers election. And we have Joan Owens, who is the second VP, who is going to lead that portion of the meeting. She's on the election committee. And so I'm going to mute the computer so that we can use Jimmy's cell phone to have Joan speak to y'all.
Now it's good. There we go.
Okay. I'm Joan Owens. I'm currently the second vice president, and as that, I was in charge of the nomination committee. And every year that is quite a struggle because so many people just don't have the time or the inclination to serve. So, and then we had good news in that we had several volunteer, but a couple of them were not eligible at the time because they had not attended the 3 required meetings prior to serving. So the slate for this time is, and I'm going to name the slate, and then I'm going to ask them to visit about their tell you a little bit about themselves. So anyway, the slate is Anna as president, Missy, who is not here tonight, as second vice president, Kelly, lost my screen. What's Kelly's last name? Kelly, she is joining us remotely. Okay, she is volunteered to be second vice president. And we've got Jimmy here as treasurer, and we've got David as secretary. And Missy first vice president, she's not here. So what I would like to start with was each of, I guess, y'all will have to stand so they can hear you, but I guess start with each of you to just tell a little bit about your background. So Anna, you can start.
Alrighty, y'all can hear me okay? Alrighty. I'm Anna Pittala. I'm the current president of the Southwood Neighborhood Association. I'm a native Austinite and I've lived in Southwood. I think Jimmy and I figured out it's 27 years now, so just a little while. I'm over at the corner of Red and Jinx. Y'all probably see all the signs in my yard. I really like lawn art that has a message. And I'm going to be running again as president of the Neighborhood Association. I served previously as 1 year as secretary, and for the last year, I've had the pleasure to serve y'all as president, and I would appreciate your vote. All right. David, you want to go next?
Well, Missy, is Missy online or?
No, Missy is not on.
Okay, then have Kelly.
All right, Kelly, do you want to share with us?
Yes, thank you.
Hang on a second, hon. Let me mute. I'm going to mute. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to mute the computer and then I'm going to turn the speaker back on so that everybody in the room can hear you.
Got it. Okay. Hi, my name is Kelly Nalle. I have lived in Southwood since 2009, and this is my first time volunteering to run for a position. And I love the neighborhood, and I am invested in the neighborhood, and I like to be helpful. And so if I can help by being a part of the officers group, I am happy and eager to do that, and I would appreciate your support in my endeavors. Thank you.
You want to use your, use your phone. Or do you want to use this? You can use this. It's easier. You just stand in front of it. Yeah. Okay.
Jimmy Somma, current treasurer of the Southwood Neighborhood. I have been an Austinite for going on 8 years. I've lived in Southwood going on 5, and just really enjoy being a part and making a difference. So, hopefully, give me your vote. Yeah, you're good.
Hello, I'm David Foster. My wife and I came to Austin in 1983. Bought a house in Southwood in 1993. We live on Forest Way Drive. I've been active in the neighborhood association for 20 plus years, and I've served at just about every office except president, and I'm okay with that. I'm currently secretary, and I'm staying for secretary again. Thank you all for coming out and supporting the neighborhood.
Ready to vote. So I don't know if anyone would like to, or are there any nominations from the floor? I see no hands. What? All right, there's no nominations from the floor. Do I have a motion to pass the slate?
I motion to pass the slate as presented.
Thank you. All in favor of passing the slate as presented, raise your hand. Well, do we have any that do not want to pass the slate? Okay. It was unanimous then. So I guess that ends the election process. Thank you very much. We have new officers. And please, what I would like to year. We have a really hard time drafting officers, but it's really a lot of fun. I mean, you only meet, once a month as an officer. You meet once in the general meeting and once as an officer meeting, and they're on alternate months, so it's every other month. I mean, every month, but just one meeting. So it's not really that difficult to be, but it's really a nice, you get to hear what's going on in the city as well as in the neighborhood and come up with programs. That's our main reason for being on a lot of times, is to come up with programs for the meetings. And also to keep everybody aware of any types of challenges that's coming along from the city. So anyway, keep that in mind for next year. We'd love to have new blood. It looks like we dominate the group, but it's only because we've been ones that will stand forward at the time. We'd love to have more of you. Okay, thank you very much. Pass it back to you, Anna.
Yeah, I would just like to say when I did it and I was first VP for, I think, 2 rounds, that it was a lot of fun. I met a lot of new people at ANC and all over the city and all over the city offices.
Alrighty.
And the mayor
So,
knew me by name, which
sorry, I was
could have
having a
been
hard time
good
getting
or
a person
bad.
to respond to me there. Okay, so the next part of our meeting is the budget. One more vote. One more vote. One more vote. So the next part we have is our annual budget. What we have in the budget for the next year would be our Austin Neighborhood Council dues, which are $50. We're hoping this year to get some new yard signs, y'all, so I can stop duct taping our old ones. You've probably seen them in the neighborhood. They're looking a little sad, but they served us well. So we're probably looking at investing, I'm guessing about $350 to $400 in being able to get a bunch of yard signs. I did $350 to $600, but I hope that that's not the case because some of the prices have gone up a lot. $120 for our Zoom renewal and $300 for community engagement and $300 for the green belt and trails, which was historically what we've spent in the past. And hopefully now that we're coming out of the pandemic, we'll be able to invest in that again. So we're looking at $1,400 for the next year. Do I have a motion to vote on the budget? Do I have a second? Thank you. All right, so those in favor for supporting the budget that I just shared, please raise your hands. Awesome. All right, it's unanimous again, y'all. We're doing good tonight. All right, so the budget passes. So now we're going to present the guest speaker portion of our meeting, which is the Watershed Protection Department. It's just going to take me a second to get this set up on the computer. And so we're going to have a remote presentation on the Williamson Creek Flood Risk Reduction Survey results. Tonight we have guests to share the survey results with us. Our speaker is Marie Lancaster from the Watershed Protection Department. Also with us remotely is David Trujillo for questions, as well as Public Officer Representative Stephanie Lott, Danielle Guevera, the Supervising Engineer for the Creek Flood, will also be remotely attending this meeting. So we'll have them do their presentation, and at the end, we'll ask for questions. If we could start with the Southwood members asking questions first, and then at the end, we'll ask any outside guests to ask their questions as well. Try to stick to a question and not a statement, because I know all of us are passionate about the creek and about flooding. And then we'll have them do their answer. And again, bear with us on the technical portion of this, because it's going to be a little juggling going on. All right, so let's see. Thank you for coming. I know you do.
Yes,
Thank you so much for
nice seeing
coming.
you.
You too. Some of our guests are having to leave, but I'm glad they stayed for the vote. All right, so Marie,
Hello, can you hear me?
let's see.
Hello?
Let me,
Let me know if you can hear me.
what I'm gonna do
whenever.
is I'm gonna mute my computer.
Okay.
And then turn on the speaker and you'll be good to go, Marie. I'll give you a thumbs up, okay?
All right. Well, hello, everyone, and thank you, Anna, for having us at your meeting this evening. And thank you for the introduction. I was going to go through our whole team, but maybe I will go really quickly with everyone and their cameras on so you can see a face to the name. So my name is Marie Lancaster. I'm a graduate engineer for the Watershed Protection Department. I am also now this project sponsor for this Williamson Creek CIP. David Trujillo is still also with me. He was the sponsor on this project and passed the baton to me. So he's still going to be very much present, guiding and mentoring me. We have Stephanie Lott as our public information officer. Danielle Guevera is our supervising engineer for the Creek Flood Risk Reduction team. And we also have Jessica Fox, who came and just new to the city, and she just came onto this project as well. Here also tonight is our assistant director, Mike Kelly also. So I'm going to try to share my screen now so you can see the presentation. So let me know, maybe a thumbs up whenever you can see the presentation. Because I can't, oh no, you can see it? Perfect, let me do full screen. I like when technology works. All right, still good to go? All right. Well, thank you again for having us tonight. So this evening, I'm going to go just quickly a little bit over the overall project, a little bit on the timeline. We will share with you also some of the survey results that we've had, as well as like the next step and where we're heading, as well as at the end of the presentation, David and I will take questions. So as you know, I'm sure, but to put people in perspective, this project is located east of Westgate Boulevard, west of South Congress Avenue, north of Stastny, and right below Ben White. And your Southwood Neighborhood Association is right in the middle of our project. So this area of Austin has had repeating flooding in 1998, 2001, 2013, there were massive floods. So in 2006, the city partnered with the US Corps of Engineers and did a feasibility study to kind of help this neighborhood. And so we had a first phase one, which came out to be a buyout program that started in 2011, where 25 homes were bought out in the Bayton Loop area. Then we had an additional 52 properties that were bought in the Radom Circle, as well as the Harwood area between 2014 and 2022. Starting in 2019, we did a phase 2 feasibility study. So we just kind of, again, look at this area. And a big thing that changed is a new study came out called Atlas 14, where we collected new rainfall data. And so we had to update our flood risk map, which on the next slide, I'm going to tell you a little bit more detail so it makes more sense. During this feasibility study, we also evaluated kind of like old alternatives that were done by the US Corps of Engineers, as well as new alternatives to kind of see what was the best solution. So out of the study, we selected 3 that was the most feasible. And so these 3 will be taken into the preliminary engineering phase that's starting at the end of this year. So just a quick explanation. So Atlas 14 was a national study that was done by NOAA. And basically we just received an extra amount of rainfall data. So we had, as I'm sure you were all aware, we had hurricanes like Katrina and Harvey in 2016. And so all of that rainfall data was added into what we already had as far as like our rainfall data, and this was added into our model. So what you see on this map is the red outline is the previous floodplain. So before we had all this extra data, and the blue polygon is what the floodplain looks like today. And so for the feasibility study and for this next phase that we're entering, we're going to use this new updated, more accurate floodplain data. So during this feasibility study, we went through 9 alternatives. We looked again at the 2006 creek modification analysis. We looked at flood walls, optional buyouts, structure elevation, some detention pond, creek modification, bypass tunnel, and a combination on some of this. And what we found is the 3 strongest one and most feasible was the optional buyouts, the creek modification, and the bypass tunnel. These were the ones that didn't have any adverse impact on the rest of the area. So I'm not going to go through each of these three in a little bit more depth, just so you have more information. So this first alternative, the optional buyout, if everyone would want to participate, this would reduce all flooding risk. At this time, we still need to determine the eligibility of like who would be able to participate in this program. Also during the study, so the cost that was estimated, again, just so you know, tonight, all the costs that I'm going to be sharing are going to be pre-pandemic costs. And so all of these costs are going to be updated during our preliminary engineering phase. But tonight, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a range of what we're looking at. So with, anywhere, depending on the participation of the buyouts, it would cost anywhere from $20 million to $250 million. And this alternative would take anywhere between 2 to 5 years to implement once we have funding secured. I wanted to show you some photos of what a buyout program kind of looks like. So once an offer is accepted, voluntary, the city goes and removes the house from the lot and returns that lot into a green space, into parkland. So then that way all flooding risks are reduced, or removed actually. Our second alternative is our creek modification. So this is it's an effective alternative, except that it does not remove all structures from the floodplain. It also has the biggest environmental impact in comparison to the tunnel or the buyouts. This option still needs a little bit more refinements that will be taking place in the next phase. And during the study, the estimated cost was between $60 to $100 million, and it would take anywhere between 5 to 7 years to implement. I also wanted to show you this little drawing to just kind of explain really what creek modification entails. And so we're basically looking at the creek and the creek bed and where we could potentially either widen the creek or maybe making it deeper. So then that way the water level would decrease and remove the houses that are currently in the floodplain to maybe lowering that so they're not in the floodplain anymore. So this is just one example of a cross section. The green outline, if you can see that, the kind of squiggly line is the creek bed, and the dashed line in red is where we would propose grading. So in this area, we would deepen the creek bed so then the water level would decrease and the houses would be protected and out of the floodplain. I also wanted to share some photos of what creek modifications look like. So during construction, you would have equipment in the creek bed, but as you can see on the right-hand side, once the construction is over, the creek can go back and vegetation grow, wildlife come back, and so the creek goes back to its natural habitat. Our last alternative is our bypass tunnel. It would be a 2.4 mile long bypass tunnel under Stastny Lane. It would go from Westgate Boulevard all the way to South Congress Avenue. This is the structural alternative that has the most number of structure removed, approximately 300. The cost at the time of the study was more than $230 million, and it would take anywhere between 7 to 10 years to implement. Here, I also wanted to show you again photos. I think it's important to have a visual of what those kind of project could look like. So these are actually photos from the Walder Creek Tunnel that's located around the Waterloo Park on 12th Street all the way to Town Lake. And so this was a really good, really big construction project. And these are some of the photos, as you can see, from the inside of the tunnel to the trench that had to be dug for it. And so it was a big project. So earlier this year, as you're aware, we did a public outreach and we mailed out about 3,200 flyers to let people know that we were going to conduct a survey. We just wanted to get the public input on what did you think about these 3 alternatives? What are your thoughts about having a project in your area? And so we posted on Facebook, Nextdoor, our project website. We also did a short little quick videos for people who are visual and wanted to just kind of get some of that information, visually. And so that community survey was available online through texting as well. And we have paper copies at the Menchac Library. Total, we received 268 responses and 77 written comments. I will not go through each and single one of them or all of the questions that we asked, but I'm trying to, I will show you some of the graphs that we have and basically the main points that we gathered and everything and collected. So first, we wanted to know, well, do you even want a project in this area? And so it's an important question. And we also wanted to maybe like kind of separate that question into two groups, like the overall people in the project area. What was your thoughts? And it's from what we saw is 35% said absolutely yes, and 37% very important. So 72% was positive to have a project. And whenever we zoomed in to the people that actually already have experienced flooding in this area, 44% said absolutely we want a project, and 44% said very important. So 88% of people who have experienced flooding were for having a project in this area. So this was good information for us that yes, we need to be acting here. We also wanted to hear about your, like the most important consideration, like about having a project that reduced the flooding in this area. What was your concern, your preferences? And so what we heard is, about 52%, so more than half were saying preserving the natural appearance of the creek is important, as well, obviously, as protecting houses, but the impact on wildlife, preserving trees, all of those were, high concerns of yours. We also see that, there was 37% of people that wanted to avoid the buyout program. So again, we heard a lot of mixed priorities, and we took all of this into consideration. Every single response was, recorded and analyzed. Again, to zoom in a little bit more on like what the impact environment could look like, we asked the questions, would it be acceptable for you to remove any large trees? And so it seems like, most of you are, very concerned and would like to either not remove any tree, 39%, or only, just a minimum amount, just whatever is necessary. Similar question about, is it acceptable to alter the look of the creek and change, some of its parts? And here, what we see is like, yes, 41% said yes, but then 39% no, and then 20% unsure. And for us, what this looks like is we do need to give you more information to have more clarity of what, a creek modification looks like, exactly where those, modifications could take place. And so I just want to, share this with you tonight is we will be doing more public outreach. We will be sharing the information as it comes to us. And so, but all of this was really good information for us to start this next phase of this project. Again, this is one of a very hypothetical question. We wanted to see if optional buyouts were chosen, what would be the criteria for eligibility? So what did you all think, would be necessary for people to participate in this program if it were the solution that was taken? And so 54% said only the structures that have repeated flooding. We also hear 35% said, in addition, all structures in a 25-year floodplain. And then 28% said all of the structures at risk, so all the structures in the 100-year floodplain. So right now, it seems like, repetitive flooding is the one that would be a good criteria to consider. And we've heard this and recorded it. Again, this was an interesting question, just in a sense of, it gave us information for us if the optional buyouts were to be taken, selected, and a fair market value offer would be given to you, would you consider selling your home? And 39% said no, but 39% said unsure. And so again, for us, this was really good information that we need to share more information with you. We need to make sure that we give you more details and just keeping you up to date to where the study is going. And just to make sure that those 39% that are unsure just have a clear idea of what the buyout program would entail if it were to be the selected alternative. At this time, we do not have any idea of which of these three would be selected. And finally, we ask you, out of those three alternatives that I just presented, which one did you like best? And so 64% mentioned a favorite to the bypass tunnel. The optional buyouts and the creek modification were tied at 48%. And there were still some people that were saying these are not really acceptable for us and would rather not have any projects. So again, all that data has been collected. It was really good input. And so overall, this is just a quick summary of what I've went through with the graphs. I know sometimes, graphs are not always straightforward. So basically the majority of you do want a project in this area. Even though you are aware of the flooding risk, most residents would not consider moving out of that neighborhood. The tunnel also received the most support, And if optional buyouts were chosen, residents seem to favor to only look at the houses that have had repetitive flooding. So we've taken all of that information, giving it to our consultant, and they've basically looked at all these alternatives and just made sure, this was inputted in there to rank them and to see how your input affected also the ranking of those alternatives. So where we are today, we just finished our feasibility study, and we are starting the preliminary engineering study, meaning those three options that I just talked about, the buyouts, creek modification, and a tunnel. We're going to take those three and just have the consultant just dive in, just go into more depth, giving us updated cost on these three alternatives, how long these alternatives will take. And so we're hopeful that by 2024, one of these three alternatives will be selected. We would also have to determine potential funding sources. And finally, after 2024, depending on which alternative is selected, either we're going to design or implementation. Like if we were to select the tunnel, then we would go into a design phase from there. If we were to choose the buyouts, then it would go into an implementation phase. So this is where we are today at the start of the preliminary engineering study, and our consultants are working on this already. So now David and myself will be taking any of your questions. So I don't know, Anna, if you'd like to unmute and share them. And thank you for your time. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Thank you, Marie.
You're welcome.
All right, does anyone in the room have any questions? Okay, Jimmy, Jimmy's gonna take this cell phone over. If you wanna stop the screen share, and then we can have
Yes.
the gallery.
How do I stop the screen share? I'm sorry, I'm not as savvy with Zoom. Does anyone can tell me how to stop the screen share? To go back.
Usually up at the top of your Zoom window. I think.
Yeah,
Red.
I have resumed. I
Hang
have
on a
this
second,
on.
Susan. I can see you're talking, but you're muted. You're muted in the room. I'm sorry, because we can't hear you in the room yet. So if the folks from Zoom could hold
there we
off
go.
on their
There you go.
questions for a second. We have one person in the room that has her hand up, so we're going to ask them their question first. You get it, Court?
It's just this.
I'll share. Use that one. Right, this phone's not working, so we're going to try the other one. That's why we hooked up to. Okay. Oh, this one's working.
This should work now.
Okay, can you hear me okay now? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, yeah.
Marie, can you hear her? If you could give me a thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm just curious to know, I know it's very early in the project, but if you look to, oh, by the way, my name is Kathleen, I live in Southwood. If you look to the Onion Creek buyout project that happened a few years ago, how was that project funded? Just to give us an example of how things have gone through, I'm just curious.
Mike, would you
Right,
be
hang
able
on a
to?
second, let me
Thank you.
mute the,
Yes.
let me mute the computer. You're muted, Jimmy?
Mike will answer that question for me, everyone. He's our assistant director. He has more knowledge of that project than I do, sorry.
Good to talk? Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Mike Kelly, Assistant Director with City of Austin. The project for Onion Creek was at first wholly paid for by the City of Austin drainage utility rate fees. We have been receiving reimbursement from the United States Army Corps of Engineers through that. And we are in the last round of submittals for costs that we incurred on that project. At the end of the day, the agreement that we have with the Corps says that they will pay 65% of the costs and the city will bear 35% of the costs. So that's what we're aiming towards. So it's, at the end of the day, it'll be a 65-35 federal government, City of Austin split on that project.
Yeah, no one's talking. I'm sorry. Okay, so is anyone in the Zoom have a question? If you could raise your hand. Let me just switch over to gallery so I can see if anyone's raising their hand. I think Susan might have had a question. No,
No, I was offering advice on the Zoom.
you're muted, Susan.
I'm not muted.
All right. Anyone else in the Zoom have a question? I think Susan said she was giving me some advice on the screen. No, no other questions? No other
Actually, Anna,
All righty.
Anna, I had a question.
Ah, Sarah, I'm seeing you.
I guess I'm
Okay,
kind of
let me,
baffled.
give me 2 seconds. Let me mute the computer and turn on the speaker in the room so we can hear you too.
Okay, is this sort of a regular process by which decisions for projects like these are given, high mail outs and ask for responses? And it seems to me like a pretty small number responded. I mean, in comparison, compared to the size of the neighborhood, the people affected to it. And then it goes to consultants and all that, and those responses actually are the ones affect the decision, the end decision, which is a very big deal. Correct? Or am I not understanding this?
Yes, we did mail out 3,200, notice to make people aware that there was this survey available. So, for us actually receiving 268 responses, we were quite happy with that results, just because it is not always possible to get so much input from everyone. Not everyone has access either to online or texting even. And so we just tried our best to make people first, with a little flyer like, yes, we're going to have for you, ask for your input, please, send it to us. So it does sound very small in comparison to, to how many we sent out, but just so you know also, so we got 268 responses. There are about 400 homes that are in the floodplain. So I cannot guarantee that those 268, responses were from people in the floodplain, but overall to us, that was a good amount of information that not every single project gets that input from residents. And so it was still very much valuable to us because we do want to know what people want to do in this area and how we can help, for the city to help you and for also like making sure people are not displaced. And so we just, we are taking into account your input. And again, in this next phase that we'll be starting the preliminary engineering report, we will be doing more public outreach. So that's why I think this is great that you all have us over tonight. And so please share with your neighbors, who may not be part of this association, but people that you see in your neighborhood, tell them whenever you know that there's, surveys available, for us to, for them to take. And so, because we do want to reach as many people as possible, we've done the social media route as well. We're trying out, project websites, but we just, I still personally do believe that the word to mouth is, is very effective. So please, share that information with people whenever you yourself are aware of any input that you're able to give to the city. And I would like to say also, I am going to put in the chat of the Zoom, the project email. And so if at any moment you have any questions at any time, please feel free to email me, and then our project team will receive those emails and we'll make sure, we get back to you as quickly as we can.
Thank you, Marie. If you could also send me information that I can share with other neighborhoods that don't have neighborhood associations.
Okay.
Maybe we can coordinate some kind of meeting for them. Since they
Yes.
have advocates for them. We're lucky to have a neighborhood association here that's been established for years, and some other nearby neighborhoods that are affected by the flooding
Mhm.
don't have those kind of resources. And so I would
Yes,
like to be able to coordinate with them somehow.
please. Yes, that would be a great idea. Thank you.
No, you have a question? Okay, yes, please. Yes, please. Okay. So Jose, Noe Elias is going to he's going to reach out to you to see about coordinating with the West Congress neighborhood, because they don't have a neighborhood association.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you very much. Yes, thank you.
Does anyone else in Zoom have any questions? Anyone else in the room have any questions for them? Yes, please, David. Yeah, you can just stand in front of me.
Okay, here's my question. You mentioned at the outset Atlas 14 and the updated floodplain maps. My understanding is that what Atlas 14 does is it updates the data that goes into, I guess, software programs to draw those maps. But it's not really looking at what climate experts say is going to be even more rainfall in the future. And my concern is that whatever we do here may not be enough to mitigate flooding, given that climate modeling is telling us we're going to get even bigger rainfalls that Atlas 14 isn't accounting for. So are you taking that into consideration at all?
So right now, in the next phase of our project, we will be asking our consultant to look at different levels of service. So we're going to look at, like, could you make, for example, the tunnel to be able to handle a storm like 100-year storm? And even though, yes, you're right, we are expecting more rainfall, more storms. So right now, we might have more 100-year storms. And so we're hopeful that the level of service that we'll be hopefully able to get will take into consideration the fact that, yes, if we are hit more often, that if it's a structural option, it will be able to handle those new storms. Again, it depends on which alternatives is being selected. So, but we are looking for the creek modification and the tunnel. We are asking our consultant to giving us multiple level of service to make sure that we are taking into consideration the climate change.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Mary?
Yeah, I've got a question, and I was one of the survey takers that commented. I was told by Watershed that they only measure water flow in the creek and not actually in the street. And the people that live on Meadow Creek Drive, where I live, and Emerald Wood and Glen Oak all have to get flood insurance now, because Glen Oak has a tributary that runs between Glen Oak and Emerald Wood Drive. And the two low water crossings on Glen Oak are at Glen Oak and Emerald Forest, and Glen Oak and Aberdeen Drive, and they're not sufficient to handle water flow, even during not a very heavy rainfall. And during the last big flood event, Aberdeen Drive was blocked. So if you live on Meadow Creek or Emerald Wood or even Glen Oak, there's no way out of the neighborhood. And I just always get a deaf ear. It seems like, you know, they could make the culverts bigger. The culvert at one end is actually higher than on the let me see, on the upstream side, it's lower than on the downstream side. You know, it's outdated. It just doesn't do the job. And in a big flood event, that's just going to exacerbate it. During the last big flood, we were in danger of flooding from the front of our house. We came within 1.5 inches of flooding in the front corner of our house and not the back of the creek. And so I know that's City Works, I believe, and not Watershed. But it seems like they need to be working together and measuring flow in the streets as well, because we're kind of sandwiched in between the creek and the street. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing all that information. And watershed protection is, you know, the one department dealing with low water crossing. So it is, you know, our responsibility. And we do have a team and everything who, you know, focalized on low water crossing. So I would say at this time, if, you know, any information that you can share with the city through 311, any report that you have, please always, I know it sounds repetitive, but please send those reports to us, because it is collected and we are investigating all the water crossing and especially around flood areas. So we want to know. And about this project in particular, we are looking at the entire area. So we are looking, our consultants will be looking at all the roads around the water crossings for the creek modification to kind of see where we can either widen, make the culverts bigger, smaller, deeper. And so we are looking at this whole project area. But again, any report that you can make through 311, it's actually, you know, very valuable data for us to have with photos and everything, so we can understand also how the water flows, because sometimes, yes, we have our models in our computers, but, you know, rain does what rain does. And so it's always good to have photos and see how actually it moves on the ground for us. So please, I would say continue reporting to 311 so we can collect this. And so we are looking at the low water crossing, you know, throughout the whole city, actually, you know, not just in just few areas. We have all those low water crossing listed.
So when I take pictures and send it to 311, and I know other neighbors have done this, we feel very frustrated that weeks later it's still there, you know, the debris. And if they could just come in and move it, there wouldn't be as much of an issue. So you know, that, I don't know, Watershed and City Works needs to, you know, figure out how to address that in a more timely manner.
Yes, yeah. And I'm sorry for the frustration, and I understand. And we're trying to get our, you know, field operation crews to go out after floods and everything to clear as many low water crossing as possible. And I apologize if sometimes, you know, it must feel very frustrating to just send photos and do all the things that we're asking you to do, and you do it, and then the things are not done properly. So we're trying to work, you know, it's just different teams in our departments and to get everything coordinated. And we're doing our best to get those debris cleared out as early as possible, because you're right, it is, you know, affecting the flooding in the area, and people who are not particularly concerned about the creek sometimes do, you know, end up flooding from the street. So it is very important.
And just one other thing, when my granddaughter was living with us during COVID, she was a toddler, and those low water crossings are really dangerous. I mean, there's you know, great big gaps that children could fall in, even if there wasn't any water. It really is a liability, and the city's known about it for years. And you know, I just encourage them to look at that and update those low water crossings, make them safer and make them bigger. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. You have some very valid concerns there, because I know that that area under those passes is very narrow, and it does get blocked up very quickly and does create a lot of flooding in the surrounding area. Does anyone else on Zoom have any questions? Anyone in the room have any follow-up? Yeah, you want to come stand in front of here? So we were. Yeah. So he would like to know if it's possible for the report to be shared with us. If you could send it to the officer's email, I will be happy to share it with the Google group so that people can have access to it.
Yes, let me double check to see if we are able to send our full report, or if David or Danielle, if you know that answer, we can share those 300 pages documents if you want some light reading for the night.
Yeah, a link to something would be best.
Yes, yeah, we can
Because
send.
I
you
don't think a
PDFs.
Google group can handle a 300-page attachment.
Yeah. Yes, I will share the reports that we can share with you for sure.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
And this recording that we did today will be on YouTube as well. Okay. That way.
And I can also send that PowerPoint presentation as well if you'd like to have the slides and just some photos as well, just to see. I can send this presentation to you to the email if you'd like.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you. Anyone else have any other questions?
I did want to point out one question in the chat.
Oh, yes, please.
So I think the question is actually from the city, but when was the last flooding that you received in your neighborhood? Was it with the rain in August, or do you remember when the?
Yeah, I put that question in the chat because I think Mary mentioned in the last big flood, they were, she was nearly flooded from the street. And I was curious whether that was from August of this year. I think it was like August 22nd. We had a pretty big storm.
I think it was 2015. I'm not really sure, but it was pre-COVID.
The Memorial Day 2015 flood.
Possibly, yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else in the room? No? All righty. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing this important information with us. I really appreciate y'all spending your evening with us. I'm sure you have kids at home or loved ones that are dying for dinner. So thank you so much. And I look forward to receiving the emails from you with that information.
Yes. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everyone. And yes, let's stay in touch with the other neighborhoods as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Alrighty, so we still have announcements to do, and we also have a couple of candidates here with us. So we're gonna have do y'all want to come up and speak in front of the laptop? And that way we don't have to do the cell phone and turn off the speaker and all that jazz. All right, so we have two candidates with us, and we're going to give them a couple of minutes to give us an introduction. Yeah, you can face there, you can face them, you can stand off to the side and do both.
All right, hello, my name is Elias. I am running for Austin City Council District 3. So your neighborhood, it would be the east of the train tracks. It's from Ben White all the way to Staffney. So this whole area here, actually the area where we're talking about the flooding here, Williamson Creek, is included in District 3. And as a candidate, what I've been doing is I've been walking your community. I don't know, some of you probably received my flyer. And I've been learning a lot about your community, because one thing about living in District 3 is that it's so different in different parts of the district. District 3, everybody assumes is mostly East Austin, but it's pretty evenly divided between East Austin and then South Austin here. So I've been walking the entire district. I've knocked on over 6,000 doors so far, just introducing myself, talking to the community. And again, one of the issues was flooding and the flooding mitigation and all of that. But I've been learning a lot, and I've been even helping some community members with some issues that they had. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am a second grade school teacher. I teach at Linder Elementary, which is in Southeast Austin. I've taught for 11 years. And that's kind of what got me into this. I see my families, my student families. I mean, 11 years of teaching, you get to meet over 200 families, and you see how they're struggling, you know, to stay in the city. A lot of them work multiple jobs. They can barely afford the rent. They spend about, you know, half of their paycheck in rent. And then, you know, at the end of the month, they're struggling to even buy food for their kids. So that's, you know, I believe that that's morally wrong to live in a city that really produces a lot of wealth, you know, with technology, with, you know, different things. And, you know, to have our workers, the people that make the city function, to barely be surviving in the city, you know, to me, that's morally wrong. So what, the other thing that I do is I also serve in the Metropolis Neighborhood Association in my community. I've been living in Metropolis for 31 years since we arrived from Mexico when I was 8 years old. We moved to Metropolis and raised there. I built a house there. I'm raising my family there, and I'm very involved in my community. We've fought to preserve so many things, things that make our community what it is. The same thing that you do here. You know, fight for your community. We preserved a historic building called the Metropolis School for Negro Children. I don't know if you heard that story. It was a segregated school. A developer bought it, wanted to demolish it, build, of course, high-rise luxury condos, and we fought to preserve it. The city bought it for us, and now we're turning into a museum and a community center. But we also deal with, you know, regular issues, just the way that your community deals with, you know, a lot of zoning and rezoning issues. And I really believe that we need to take the opportunity with those things to demand more when we allow developers to build in our community. I think we really need to demand more. For our community, we have a checklist. We say, you know, what's going to be the environmental impact? What's, you know, how are you going to mitigate the water runoff? What's the infrastructure like in the place where you're going to build? What's the affordability? Can you include some affordability for our families? You know, multiple units, but also having multiple bedroom units so that families can live there. So, you know, we have a checklist like that, and of course, you probably know this, but a lot of times our city council member doesn't always support us on that, and they end up voting for these developments that really, you know, affect the community by increasing our taxes, increasing our rents, and, you know, displacing a lot of people. So I really feel that as a council member, you really have to go to all the different neighborhoods and communities in your district and really know what they need, what they want, and work with them and support them on that. And so that's something that's, you know, my pledge is that, you know, communication is going to be key. I have a lot more, but if you need anything else, you can go to my website, josennoeliasd3.com. I have flyers. I walk around and pass out my flyers. And, you know, any questions, I'm here to answer.
Do you want to put it in the chat? So if you want to go over to Jimmy and he'll put it in the chat for you. Did anyone on Zoom have any questions for Jose? Okay, thank you. All right.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Good evening.
Come over
everybody.
so you're in the
Oh,
screen.
sorry. Yeah.
There you go.
Hello, everybody.
Look
Thank you
at
for the spotlight. I feel really special.
Y'all, we're high tech over here.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Gonzales, and I'm a candidate for the AISD School Board District 6, which is the area that we're in right now, Central South Austin. It overlaps with City Council District 5, District 3, and then also District 2. I am a former AISD teacher myself. I taught in the district years. I taught at Travis High School, which is right on Old Cliff and 35, and then on Lively Middle School, which is formerly Fulmore Middle School, right on Columbus. I'm a multi-generational teacher. My mom was a teacher in the district for 36 years. She taught at Williamson Elementary, and my grandfather was also a teacher. He taught bricklaying and stonemasonry, which is different than teaching history like I did, but it's still teaching nonetheless. And I thought that I was going to be a career teacher just like they were, but our teaching workforce, not only in this city, but across the state and across the country, has faced unimaginable challenges in the past 3 years that have led, in this district, last year, 2,100 people resigned from their positions. That's about 1,000 teachers, which is about 1/5 of the entire teacher workforce in the AISD. We have also, this year, are going to begin selecting our 4th superintendent in just as many school years. We had Dr. Paul Cruz, followed by Dr. Elizalde. Now we have Dr. Mays, and now we're selecting another one. We've closed 4 campuses, and we had a plan to close 8 more, including the one that we're standing in right now in 2019. COVID, unfortunately or fortunately, threw those plans kind of to the wayside, but our district is going to revisit that conversation, given the next bond that we're about to pass. So I say all that to say that our district is really at a crossroads. We've had declining enrollment, we have an increase in recapture payment, and a lot of those negative effects have rolled downhill onto the backs of teachers and made a really difficult job even more impossible. And so the reason why I'm running is because I want to bring the perspective of a teacher, someone who has been on the ground in classrooms, not 20 years ago, not 10 years ago, but last year, to the board and to the decision-making that our board is engaged in. My priorities, if I'm elected to the board, I want to increase our outcomes specifically for our special education, our multilingual, and our economically disadvantaged students. We were audited as a district last year, and this is our 4th year in a row where our special education students have not met state standards. Our dual language programs are also out of compliance, particularly at our Title I schools. I also want to prioritize teacher and staff retention and morale because, as I said, we've lost 2,100 last year. This year, we started off with 110 vacancies. Our district currently has 377 vacancies as of today, which means we've more than tripled in just a month's school time, right? We started mid-August and now we're in mid-September. I also want to increase transparency in decision-making processes. I referenced that school closure process that happened in 2019. This campus was one of the campuses that was on that list of 12. A lot of people felt like throughout that process, they were talked to, not consulted with, and not that a plan was built in clear collaboration with the community. So I want to change that. And then my final last point is that I want to ensure that mental health support is easily accessible to not only the children that are in our classrooms, but also to the adults, because this is a very stressful profession and has become even more so in the past few years. I've been endorsed by Education Austin, which is the teachers union for the city, as well as the Austin Young Democrats, University Democrats, Jolt Action, the Stonewall Democrats, and I'm sure I'm leaving out at least one other organization, but I would love to have your support. I have some literature like Noah does. I'll pass it around. If you'd like to sit down and have a coffee or just a bigger conversation about what's going on with the district, I absolutely welcome that. I try to make myself as accessible as possible. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Andrew. You want to give Jimmy your website?
Sure. Thank you.
All right, and so and Jimmy will add his website to the chat as well. So next, Mr. Mack, you want to come share some info with us?
I want to share something inside.
So Mr. Mack is the principal here at St. Elmo Elementary School, and he's our host today.
Thank you all for coming out. Sorry I wasn't in here the whole time. I had to eat a little bit. Sometimes I forget. We have a lot of exciting things happening at St. Elmo recently, but one of the big things that I wanted to mention that's happening affects the whole community because we all use the park, and that's awesome. We got an urban forestry grant, and that's going to make us the recipient of 60 trees that are going to be planted on the grounds of St. Elmo. 60 trees, and it's going to start in January. So the shortest of those trees is going to be 6 feet right off the bat, but they're going to be of varying sizes. And so I walked today with the folks that are going to be spearheading that, and it's really happening. So I just wanted to make sure that the neighborhood knew about that. It's a big deal. I actually see some people on Zoom who have actually helped us in our garden, and there's some people here who have helped us with that. So super exciting stuff is happening in our neighborhood and our school.
Yay. Whoop, whoop. We love trees, don't we, y'all? Whoa, that's harsh. Okay. Maybe I'll just put it over there. Alrighty. So we have a couple announcements. Something was shared with me. The Western Trails neighborhood has arranged a District 5 forum in Joslin Park on September 29th at 6 p.m. So that's 29th at 6 p.m. in case anyone wants to attend that. And that's behind Joslin Elementary School. Some stuff that's near and dear to me as a voter registrar. The last day to register to vote is October 11th. And if you need help with that, I can update your address or get you registered. Early voting starts October 4th and it runs until the 24th. Mail-in ballot application requests need to be received by October 28th.
I think it's October 24th to November.
Oh my word, did I put it backwards? I think I was doing this in the middle of the night. See, let the candidate correct me on that one. I was totally wrong. So I think I have this part right. The mail-in ballot applications need to be received by October 28th. So if anybody in the room needs a mail-in ballot application, because you have to do that once a year, I have some available on the table over here that you can take home and fill out and mail in, because I'm not allowed to mail it in for you, because if I do, I'll be charged with a misdemeanor. Yeah. Okay, I was allowed to print them though, since I'm not doing it for profit and I didn't use federal funds for that or anything. So that came out of my pocket. Election day is November 8th, right? And let's see here, mail-in ballots need to be received by November 9th. So you may want to do that at least a week ahead of time if you get a mail-in ballot. Make sure to put your driver's license and social security number under the flap. That way they don't have any excuse for throwing out your ballot. Love Where You Live Day is going to be October 8th from 8 to 10 a.m. And that's going to be at Williamson Creek at Emerald Wood and South First. Because I had adopted our section of Williamson Creek, and so we do a monthly cleanup there. You came to the corner and you saw us there. Yeah. Afterwards it was beat red and dirty, but yeah. I mean, last time, y'all, we picked up 30 bags of trash and we estimated 600 pounds of bulk items that we pulled out of the creek with all the volunteers. And so, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's very rewarding to do that kind of stewardship, because somebody needs to take care of our creek. I mean, not only, the presentation that we had today was important about the flooding, but garbage gets into the creek. And like I tell every volunteer, we don't need to worry about how it got there. It just needs to go. And so we get down there for 2 hours, work hard, and get as much out as we can. And let's see, Mary, I think you had an announcement you wanted to make about the community garden.
Yes, thank you. So the Emerald Wood Community Garden is at the corner of South First and Emerald Wood, and we're having a work day this Saturday from 9 till 11 to weed the garden boxes and tidy it up. So if you want to come help us out, we'd love it. I did post something to the Southwood Neighborhood Association this afternoon with the Give Pulse link, which I encourage you to sign up with. But if you don't get around to doing that, just show up. We can give you a tool and you can dig in the dirt with us. We'd love to see you. Thanks.
Awesome. I think the only thing we have left is you, Jimmy. You want to pull up your little cheat sheet? So Jimmy is our treasurer. He's going to give us a quick report on. I have something I could have shared on the screen, but we'll let him do it in person to let us know where we stand financially. You want to do it in front of here?
So the current checking balance is 1,433. Savings balance is 1,230.73 cents, and the total is 2,663.73 cents.
All right.
And also, if anybody would like to pay their dues, they can do so through PayPal, and it's through the Southwood Officers at gmail.com is the PayPal. So,
How much?
oh, the dues are $10.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So yeah, so it's time for our annual dues fundraisers. So if anybody wants to throw some money at us through PayPal, we would appreciate it. Does anyone else have any other announcements they wanted to share with us? Yes, please. Yeah. To tell them who you are.
I
know
am
who you are.
Richard Weimiller. I'm down Vincent here. I have been kind of following along with the Bergstrom Trail that they've been working on, and I just wanted to let you know, if you're not on their communications list, they just recently released, they've hit 60% of the design process, and they have an online open house available that has a lot of good information about like what the cross section of the trails would look like. It has some information about what they want to do at different street crossings as far as crosswalks and some of the traffic issues. And then there's a survey that you can kind of weigh in on what you think about their plans to this point. And I'm gonna, I guess I'll get with you, Anna, and get you the link that.
Oh, you
that
can share it
links
to the
it.
Google group yourself.
Yeah,
I'll
or
be
I can
happy
do
to
that.
see your name in there.
Yeah.
All right.
Worries. So I just wanted to let you know that that's out there, and I'll put the link up.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Does anyone else want to share anything? No? Sarah? Sarah, you want to
I
share
just-
something?
Yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
I just wanted to say that I stopped at the community garden the other day, and not only did it look very nice, real nice, but also the person working there was not from our neighborhood, but just from the other side, this big development across the street from San Elmo and Congress, those apartments, huge apartment buildings. And I thought it was really neat to bring them into our fold, even though they're not exactly in our neighborhood. They don't have their own yards. So, you know, that was really neat. Maybe we can get some more from that big development into our neighborhood action.
Yay, Mary.
That's all.
Thank you, Sarah. Anybody else have anything they want to share? No? Okay, then I guess we're done. And this will adjourn the Southwood Neighborhood Association meeting. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Congratulations, Kelly.
Thank you, Anna.
I'll be in touch.
Okay, I figured. I was like, someone tell me what to do.
Don't worry. It's not too
Thanks,
much.
Anna.
Thank
And way
you.
to go, like really great job managing all the technology,
Yeah,
juggling.
Jimmy and I did a little AV badge earning yesterday.
Nice.
Trying
Way to go.
troubleshoot, so thank God it was successful.
Serious
Thank you.
effort on your part. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye, you too.
Bye. Bye, Virginia.